Hi, guys and gals. Welcome to another Game of Thrones rewatch breakdown for Season 1, Episode 6. My name's Jordan,
And I'm Danielle.
and we're going to be going through Season 1, Episode 6. This is a spoiler warning, not just for through that episode, but we're going to be talking about the entire series up through Season 6 at this point. We'll be talking about theories, we'll be talking about the books, so if you aren't all caught up on your Game of Thrones, you might want to pause this now. So, Season 1, Episode 6, great episode, one of my favorites of the first season. Where are we? What's going on here?
So we open in King's Landing. We have Ned with Cersei and Robert. We get a great quote from Cersei saying, "I should wear the armor and you the gown."
And yeah, gets this is the first time we see Robert physically abuse Cersei after that comment.
Right, so this is them confronting Ned after Jaime and him had their battle, so to speak.
Yes.
In the streets, and Robert is basically saying, "You need to be my hand again."
He also says, I had brothers and I chose you as a brother. So really kind of shows that bond that these two have, that kind of special, they're best friends, but there's more than that to these two. Robert chooses Ned even over his own brothers. And this is another example of kind of the rich and powerful thinking they're safe above everything, because
Right.
Robert's about to go on his hunt. He says, we'll talk when I get back.
People
And-
love to say that they'll talk when they
Yeah, we'll
see
talk
someone
later,
else.
and then something horrible happens
Yeah,
to
that's
him.
that should be our new theory to see. Like if someone says that they're gonna die
It's
before
like
they see that
it's
person
like the
again.
horror movie. Yeah, did never say I'll be right back in a horror movie, because
Right.
that means you're gonna get killed. Yeah. So yeah, but it's interesting because this is just last episode, Robert and Ned had this fiery confrontation where Ned fired, quit, whatever you want to call it, and clearly that didn't work out. So.
Right. And he knows that there was this big confrontation, and Jaime killed some killing people. Like it just seems like it's so brushed over, like it wasn't a big deal.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Jaime is pretty protected at this point because he is part of Kingsguard, and
Right.
so I feel like he has some protection, and plus, obviously, Cersei's not going to let anything happen to him.
Right. And you see that Robert thinks he has all this power, but in reality, he's surrounded by Lannisters.
He's surrounded by, he's not just the Lannisters, but, I mean, Littlefinger, who clearly is not working in his best interest, Varys, who's not working in his best interests, and honestly, Ned is not really working in Robert's best interests. He's working in the kingdom's best interest, which causes some more problems as this episode goes on.
But he's really been alone there too. I mean, you think even his children aren't really
Yeah.
related to him. Like he's
Yeah.
surrounded by Lannisters who he obviously they're enemies.
Yes.
In reality, even though they're married
Yes.
/ his kids.
Yeah.
So
Right.
anyway, then we jump over to Essos. We have Dany with the eggs, and it's really interesting because you see that she knows to put them in the fire. Like something is drawing her to put these eggs in the fire.
Mhm.
And then again, we see that she's unburnt. So she picks the egg up.
Microphone is not for you. The microphone's not for you.
So Dany goes to pick up the egg, and her handmaiden comes over and grabs it out of her hands and looks at Dany's hands, and they're unburned.
She's again unburnt, yes.
Whereas, even though she was holding it much longer than her handmaiden, and her handmaiden's hands are burned.
Well, her handmaiden, she touched it and it put the imprints from the egg on her
Right.
hands, so. You don't need the microphone. Shut up.
Anyway, then we jump over to Winterfell. We have Bran having another crow dream that is urging him to go down to the crypts
Crypts
again.
of Winterfell, which, we'll come back and, I know we mentioned the crypts already, but we'll come back and talk about that.
Yeah, there's lots of theories around what might be down there. In the books, it's a lot bigger as far as, Jon being drawn to the
Yes.
crypts. They don't really do that in the show. They just do Bran.
No, it's more
really.
Bran. And then once Bran wakes up, we get to see Bran riding
Riding
again,
on the
which
horse.
is, Tyrion brought him that saddle with the plans so he could ride in it. and it works. He's having the time of his life.
Yeah.
Really, for 2 minutes or so, a really fun scene where Bran is actually happy for once, which we just don't see that much of on this show.
Right, and we have Theon and Rob talking about possible war and what to kind of do about the Lannisters and everything that's been going on.
Theon is absolute, typical hot-headed, aggressive Theon. He says, well, you have to go to war.
Yeah, they attacked your father. Yeah. They started the war.
They started this. You need to do this. And Rob is much more cautious, but just kind of shows the difference in personality between these two very similar kids, similar upbringing, similar everything, but...
Well, and I think that Rob is not quite ready to admit that he is the head of the household.
Yeah, he's not fully taken that responsibility yet.
Right. To him, he still has his parents alive who are the ones who should be giving those kinds of big decisions their weight. And so then we get the Wildlings, our first introduction to Osha.
Osha, yes, I love Osha. She's a favorite of mine because I kind of had a crush on Tonks back from the Harry Potter days. So it's good to see Osha show up. I do think it's fascinating that the Wildlings say that they're running away from the White Walkers. That's why they come south.
Right.
This is really only they've kind of been mentioned a little bit up at the Wall, but this is really the first time that the idea of the Walkers has come south.
I feel like every episode there's been a mention of the White Walkers, even though it's not a big part of the show yet.
Yes.
It's like, hey, remember that first episode and how scary those guys were?
They don't want us to forget. They don't want us to forget that those are a big part of what's coming.
Yes. And so this is important for foreshadowing that the Wildlings need to get out of there, and they're trying to do that the best ways they know how. And it's also interesting because Bran's first line of defense is to say he's a Stark, and so it's very much like, in the south of the Wall, his name and being a lord or a lady and having that is kind of protection.
Well, Arya did that just last week when she was trying to get back into King's Landing. She said, my father's the hand of the king, and he will rough you up if you don't listen to me. And the guys immediately are like, ugh.
Right. Whereas south of the Wall, that's not a thing. North of the Wall, sorry.
Yes, to the Wildlings, that is nothing. Yep.
Right. And that's basically what the show is going towards anyway. We have Jon, who, it doesn't matter, he's a bastard. Like, names no longer mean as much as they used to. And that's, the same kind of theory that the throne is not going to be that important anymore.
Traditions in general. We have King Cersei, so a female sitting on the Iron Throne. We have, the most powerful lord in the North was formerly a bastard in Ramsay Bolton. And then we had Jon Snow now, who's leading the North. And then we also had...
Who's King of the North.
King of the North, yes. And then we also
have
King. Littlefinger, who is a nobody, who is instead running the Riverlands. He's supposed to be the warden of that kind of whole middle area for the Lannisters until he declares for the Starks. But yeah, it's these people, these traditions mean nothing as the show goes on. But early on, it still feels like there's some significance when Bran says, I'm a Stark.
Right.
And they're, okay, they don't care.
Right.
I was thinking with this scene, yes, it's again an example. Theon acts. Theon is the one who saves Bran, whereas Robb was going to put down his sword. He probably had some plan, but not a very good one.
No.
And, Robb kind of blows up at Theon, what if you'd missed? And he says, I didn't. And it's again, showing that Theon is the kind of hot-headed, aggressive one.
And he wants to kill Osha, and Robb is the one who's like,
yes.
No, you can have your life, like...
And Osha is later pretty instrumental for the Stark kids. Saving Bran and Rickon, getting them out of Winterfell when Theon was going to kill them.
Right, and having, I know it didn't work out great in the end, but she helped raise Theon, Rickon.
Yeah.
For several years, I think.
She couldn't teach him to zigzag.
Okay, then we go to the Eyrie. We have Tyrion in his cell, almost rolling out. He wakes up on the edge and starts freaking out that he wants out of there. And
Mord. I love Mord.
I just hate that, comes in and is like beating him, and like instead of like going towards a corner that has two walls, he goes towards the edge. I was like, Tyrion, what are you doing?
Yeah.
I would rather be beaten than fall off a ledge. Come on.
Tyrion
like,
he doesn't have a lot of experience being a prisoner.
True. But our group was like, what if that was like the end of Tyrion? He just
what
rolled
a terrible ending to Tyrion Lannister. He's asleep and he just rolls off a cliff.
Then we go to King's Landing. We have Arya and Syrio.
Arya? Super
Arya?
Arya? Super Arya?
Yeah. And Syrio, Pharrell.
She says, I don't feel like fighting today, and that's when he says, that's the time you most need to learn how to fight, is when you don't feel like it. You have to get outside your head. You have to kind of push your emotions, your feelings aside, and then what do you say to the god of death?
Not today.
Not today.
One of my favorite lines.
That's such a good line, yes.
And he does point out, so religion is a big part of the series.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's these different religions happening and it becomes bigger and bigger. And even though Syrio is from Braavos and they have like the many-faced god.
That's the many-faced god, yes.
He says there's only one god and it's the god of death.
Yes.
Specifically, which is only one of the many-faced, or one of the seven gods, and then the many-faced god is...
And the many-faced god is kind of this conglomeration of all the gods put together. And ultimately, Syrio's belief is death is kind of the force that rules over everything.
Which I think is pretty common in the many-faced god religion. Like death is huge versus like in the seven.
It's all about life and hope. And,
the mother and the father are much more prevalent than death.
People don't like the stranger. Yes. Yeah. The stranger is just the Grim Reaper, basically.
Right. Okay.
And then the next scene is that awesome scene with Daenerys, right?
Yeah, we go to Essos and we have her eating the heart.
And just everyone's just like chanting for her, and her brother gets this is when he starts to really figure out that their relationship is not going the way he wants, because he looks around and he sees this, and this argument comes later, but you can see on his face he's recognizing that people do not give a damn about him. These Dothraki horse lords, the women there, nobody cares about him, even though in his mind he should be the most powerful, effective person. But everyone is staring at Daenerys and loving Daenerys, and there's this look of concern when she almost throws up at the end when she finishes the heart, and everyone is on the edge of their seat, and then she sits up and everyone goes crazy. But I think that conversation she has with he has with Jorah, and then the next scene is when he tries to steal the dragon eggs.
Right. So he says, when he's talking to Jorah, he says they love her, and he has this big realization, like, that the fact that they love her is much more powerful than the fact that they maybe fear him, which they don't fear him. But that's what he thinks.
Yeah, he thinks they do.
And then Jorah says she truly is a queen today as well, and you can kind of see that he is falling in love with her as well. So we have two big...
And Viserys claims her son will not be a true dragon. He says, because in his mind, the only way you can have a true dragon is if he and Daenerys had a kid.
Right. Well, you have all of this incestual pool of trying to keep their genetic line pure so that you can be a dragon rider. And I was just watching all these videos about like the genetics of the Targaryens and like what makes somebody able to hatch eggs and what makes someone able to ride dragons. It's not just being a Targaryen that makes you special. So the fact that Daenerys is able to hatch these eggs later on and be unburnt is not just because she's Targaryen. It has to do with her having special genetics, possibly. And being a woman allows her to hatch eggs is part of a theory.
Yeah. And she also names their son here.
Yes.
She names Rhaego, who he's born, he's a monstrosity when he's born. But this is where she kind of honors her older brother.
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, names her after Rhaegar, so names him after Rhaegar.
But in a more Dothraki way.
Because it's that O. Lots of the names end in O.
Yeah, so kind of combining that. That's cool. So then Viserys is stealing Jorah comes in and stops him, and
don't let them see you carrying a sword. This is, the Dothrakis, the only city really in the Dothraki culture. You are forbidden to carry weapons there, and you will be executed if you are seen carrying a weapon. And that comes up much later when Daenerys is brought back here.
Right, in season 6.
And that hut where she was eating the heart is the same hut that she burns down in season 6.
Circle.
Yes. So.
Yeah. And so he points out that he can't rule without wealth and fear and love and all these things, and he realizes he doesn't have them, and so he wants to take the eggs to sell them, and he points out how expensive these eggs really are.
I could buy a ship, I could buy an army, and then I could buy like a whole fleet or something or I don't know exactly.
And Jorah's like, you could do that with one egg, and he's like, well, I need a big army.
Yeah. Basically.
So it's kind of, we can talk about theories there too, but that was a huge gift that Illyrio gave her, and what was his thought behind there, especially since he's tied with Varys and everything.
Yeah, was this part of his plan that she might be able to hatch these eggs?
Right.
And also we get a line from Jorah here that's kind of sums up his entire character when he says to Viserys, he says, loyalty means everything to me. And we see that come back time and time again. Daenerys, repeatedly throws him out, doesn't want anything to do with Jorah Mormont, and he comes back anyway. He finds ways to get back into her circle because he is he's in love with her, obviously, but he's blindingly loyal to her.
Right. But at this point in time, he isn't supposed to be loyal to her.
Yes, he's supposed to be loyal to Varys, first off, because he's a spy, and second off to Viserys. That's who he's feigning loyalty towards.
Okay, so then we jump to the Eyrie, and we have Tyrion wishing to confess his crimes. So we gather Catelyn and Lysa and Aaron, and he's like...
The whole court, too. And Tyrion really uses that to his advantage. He starts, he's telling these jokes, he's kind of getting people on his side. He said, is this the king's justice? Is this how you do things here? You throw me in a cell until I confess, I say I'm not guilty, where's my trial? So he does a really good job of winning people to his side, and this is also where we get his joke that he's never finished. He took a jackass and a honeycomb into a brothel, and he gets cut off. He's told that joke multiple times and never been able to tell us the punchline. So someday,
I didn't realize that.
Someday we'll get that joke of Tyrion's. But yes, tell us about old Robb and Aaron.
So Robb and Aaron, of course, just wants to throw him through the moon door.
Because it's a game to him.
Right. Yep. And Tyrion is smart enough to say, no, I want trial by combat. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to leave my life in the hands of this insane child.
Sadistic 10-year-old.
So, he names Jaime, his brother, and they're like, we don't have time for that.
Yeah. And so he says, okay, who's going to represent me?
And people are laughing at the idea that any of them would
and then we get,
stand up.
Tyrion has been very good about throwing his name out there, throwing how much money his family has out there as well. He offered Mord a good amount of money to take his confession to Lysa, and he starts throwing that idea out there. And Bronn is a very smart individual, and he's clearly picked up on that. And this is where we get our first real...
and I think Bronn likes Tyrion.
Yeah, he does. I think he appreciates his humor. It's obvious that they've kind of bonded a bit on their journey.
And you've seen him, fight to protect Catelyn when they were attacked. He sees that he's not, this evil person either.
Yes. He's the type of friend you'd want to have. He's rich, funny, powerful. He's the type of person someone like Bronn, who's, by where we are now, Bronn is very successful, and it's all due to his relationship with Tyrion.
Right.
Bronn is a lord at the end of season 6, so he's doing pretty well for himself, and yeah.
So then we jump over to King's Landing. We have Robert and Selmy and Lancel and Renly. They're all on a hunt together.
Mm-hmm.
And then Renly ends up leaving. He gets upset.
Yes, Renly leaves because Robert is drunk and annoying and just kind of being a bad older brother. And Renly leaves, which is significant because then there's only Barristan Selmy is left to protect, and he's not there to to help hunt. Renly and Robert were the only two actually doing the hunting, and now Robert's the only one with a hunting spear. So that's part of the reason why ultimately he probably loses this.
Right. Yeah, I wonder if Renly had stayed, would it have been different?
Yeah, because they probably would have attacked it differently rather than Robert just rushing a wild boar, which is a stupid plan.
Right.
But we also learned that later on, Lancel had fortified Robert's wine so he would get drunker and drunker and drunker than he realized he was getting on the orders of Cersei.
Right. And so while he's gone, we have Ned on the throne.
Yes.
With his cane because he's injured. And he
makes some pretty dramatic decisions here that probably are, what ultimately really wound up costing him his life are some of these decisions he makes right here. He basically calls Tywin Lannister a traitor and says, you need to bring him here to answer for the Mountain's crimes.
Right, and you get the Brotherhood Without Banners starting right here.
You get Lord Beric, yes.
But at the same time, Ned is making the right decisions.
He is. He's behaving the way you should.
Right, he's making decisions based on what is just and right, not based on what will be in his best interest.
What will benefit your friends or yourself, yes.
Okay, so then we go back to the Eyrie for the actual trial.
Yes.
And we get Bronn versus random knight.
This Knight of the Vale, who clearly is a good fighter, but just isn't prepared for Bronn's style. Bronn doesn't wear any heavy armor. He doesn't carry a shield. He's very
light on his feet.
He fights dirty too. He is throwing candles at the guy and tripping him up and throwing people in the way. He's doing anything he can to survive, and ultimately that's kind of what makes up Bronn's fighting style, is whatever it takes.
Right, which in reality is, if it's life or death, that's what you would do. Yeah. So it's interesting that these knights have been trained in a way that's kind of counterintuitive to if you had to grow up and teach yourself, which is what I'm guessing Bronn did.
Yes, and yeah, he's very clearly a guy who learned to survive.
Right.
And he shows it here. And
he tries to hold back and not kill the guy. Like he has him in that submission position. He looks to like Lysa for a good minute. Almost.
She doesn't, and she's just.
And so then he kills him because he's like, he didn't have a desire to kill anybody. He just wanted to win. Mm-hmm. But.
Oh, and that's the first line after the fight is over. Lysa says, "You fight with no honor," and he says, "No, but he did." And look at him now. So yeah, it's very that transition to kind of the new way of this kind of stuffy rules that the knights live by don't apply.
Right.
When it comes to
which
true
we see happen
fights.
with Ned as well. His honor is what kills him. Yes. Jon's honor is what kills him. I mean, the people who are surviving the best are the scrappy, do what it takes to survive people.
Ramsay Bolton was a good example. I mean, he died ultimately in the end, but look how far he got and how many times he won by just kind of being this scrappy, do what it takes type of person.
But his insanity is kind of what was his downfall.
And I love as they're leaving too, Tyrion gets his purse of gold and he gives it to Mord, and it's like the best day of Mord's life. Was
I found that interesting too, because that's like all of his money. Like, how does he plan on doing anything?
Probably just by name. Yeah, I would guess he could probably go to most inns and say, "I'm Tyrion Lannister. Let me stay here," and I don't think they could do much.
Yeah. Okay, so that's the Eyrie. Then we go back to King's Landing. We have Sansa with the Septa and Joffrey. And he brings her a necklace and is like, forgive me.
All is forgiven,
let's make out.
He'll never be cruel again, he says.
And she believes him. I mean, she's still very much a romantic little girl who thinks that everything will be fine. And in reality, when she's talked about Joffrey in the last little bit, she's said he hates me. She hasn't said she hates him. Yeah. She says he hates me.
Well, she's very much in the belief that he hates her because of something she did, or something she puts all the blame on herself for why Joffrey dislikes her.
And in reality, it's his fault that her direwolf was killed.
Yes.
So it's unfortunate that she doesn't see that, and she's so taken aback by one small gesture.
Yes, and I know it's a little bit ahead of this, but Sansa is the one who tips Ned off to this big reveal in his book when she says, we're going to have babies with beautiful blonde hair, and it's like the little light bulb goes off in Ned's head, and he looks it up, and all the Baratheons have dark brown or black hair, and then all of a sudden Joffrey, Myrcella, and Tommen come along, and they all have this golden Lannister hair.
So before I get to that though, we jump back to Winterfell. We have Theon and Ros.
Yeah, and it's just to show, Ros is going to King's Landing, and she predicts it. She says there's wars coming, and all the men here are going to go fight, and they're not going to come back because they're all going to die. So she's going down to King's Landing where she knows she'll be able to continue making a living. I think this scene is kind of touching because you see that Theon really does care about her. I think.
I don't know.
I think he's in
his
love with
own
her.
way.
I think he's in love with her.
In the only way he can.
Yeah, but he just doesn't, he's too Theon Greyjoy to ever admit it. But I think he really likes this girl. And he's very sad to see her go. So sad that he flips her the coin so he can get one last look before she's gone. It's so creepy.
Yeah, he's so creepy. Okay, so then we go back to King's Landing and we have Ned telling his daughters that they're going to be leaving.
Yes.
And going back to Winterfell, and Sansa freaks out. And Arya does too because she wants to have Syria. And she's like, can he come with us? Like, she's okay with leaving. She just doesn't want to leave Syria. And that's when the hair color business comes up.
We get Ned's detective skills as he really... It all comes together. And, this is obviously what got Jon Arryn killed, was when he started peering into this and figuring out that Robert has a bunch of kids, but none of the kids that anyone thinks are his kids are actually his.
And it's funny because, in previous episodes, when he's met when Ned has met the bastards, he looks at them for a second, he knows they're Rob's kids.
Yes.
How he didn't, look at Joffrey and Myrcella and, not see any of Robert in them is kind of beyond me. But, he just assumes the best.
Yes.
Okay, so then the last scene, we go back to Essos for the Dothraki party. We have Viserys coming, looking for Dany, and he's drunk
and panicky and aggressive. He's got his sword. This is the end of him. This one of the best scenes in.
Yeah, he puts his sword to Daenerys' belly.
Yes, he threatens to cut the baby out and leave it with Khal Drogo. Demands his crown, which he then receives. One of the best scenes in season 1. One of the most memorable scenes, I think, from all of Game of Thrones is this molten gold being poured over Viserys' head.
And it's interesting because, there's not supposed to be any bloodshed.
And there is no bloodshed. Yes. Does not make him bleed. And then Daenerys says he wasn't a true dragon because fire can't hurt a dragon. So if he was a true Targaryen, that wouldn't have hurt him at all.
Well, I don't know if she's saying he's not a Targaryen. Her whole life, he's been telling her, I'm the dragon, don't wake the dragon, I'm the last dragon. And she's realizing, actually, you might be a Targaryen, but you don't have these dragon abilities that you
I meant symbolic. You're not a true Targaryen like you think you are.
Yeah.
I'm not that he's not actually a Targaryen, but just he's not the dragon.
Daenerys ends up being the dragon,
yes.
which is interesting.
Yes. Okay, so that's the end of the episode. Crown for a King. What theories do we want to talk about from this one?
The crypts of Winterfell and Varys' plan with
Illyria?
In Illyria, and with the so let's talk about those two.
Okay, so the crypts of Winterfell, obviously, like you mentioned, in the books, the crypts play a really big role in Jon Snow's story, especially because it's it seems increasingly likely that's how he's going to figure out his parentage, is something in the crypts with either Lyanna or something down there is going to tip him off that he's not truly a Stark, or not truly Ned's son.
Right. So that's one of the main theories that is of what will be down there is something related to Jon's lineage.
Yes.
So whether, maybe it's the harp of his father, his actual father, because he was this musical person. Maybe it's something on Lyanna's tomb. There's lots of ideas of what it could be related to Jon. The other big theory of what could be down there is something related to the White Walkers.
Yes.
Because there's a theory that or not a theory even, but there's lore that a Stark married a White Walker long ago. That kind of started that line. And there's a theory that a Stark must always be in Winterfell to keep
something to do with the magic of keeping the White Walkers out. Yes.
And there might be that White Walker crypt down there of that woman. And maybe that stems to like why they don't replicate on their own. They need to take these Craster's children pretty much.
Yes.
Although we don't know that for sure because there was that little girl White Walker at the beginning of the episode. Although apparently girls look like boys because they keep saying Arya's a boy.
Yeah.
So who knows? Maybe it was a boy. But what's interesting is in the books too, when they go down there, they say how cold it is, which is a lot of times when you're around White Walkers, they bring the cold.
Yes.
So those are kind of, and they're not necessarily in combat with. There could be both of those things down there for sure.
And in the show, it seems like increasingly it's going to be Bran who figures it out in the show using his kind of weirwood, green seer, three-eye raven, whatever. But in the books, it seems more like it's going to be Jon who discovers this. But it still could be Jon in the show. But
right. Now that he's back in Winterfell, who knows? They could bring that out and have him discover something, and then Bran confirms it, kind of thing. Because in reality, if they want to prove that Jon is a Targaryen, they're going to need more proof than old Bran the Tree Wizard.
Well, and you know why they're going to go down to the crypts? Rickon just died. So that might be a good reason for
Maybe
them
we'll find out.
So that could be what takes him down there.
Yeah.
So that would be interesting.
Okay, so the other theory is about Varys and what his plan was and all this scheming with Illyrio, because we still don't really know that.
Yeah, up to season 6.
We're not necessarily going to talk about them being mermen.
No.
We've done enough.
We've done more than enough merman talk.
But I want to do like some real thinking about what is their plan, because at this point we know that they gave them the eggs to Daenerys specifically.
Yes, as a wedding gift.
As a wedding gift. We know that Varys was part of her being spied on and an attempt at her life. He was part of that.
Yes.
Like, why, if he's such a loyalist, why did he think that was okay? Did he know she would survive? Did he know that Barristan Selmy was there and he told him? Or is it that maybe he didn't know Viserys was killed yet and he was more hoping that Viserys would be the ruler?
Yeah, we're definitely in a place with Varys' plan where too many things have happened that seems like this couldn't all be part of the plan. But Varys has shown over and over how good he is at adapting and kind of rolling with the punches and utilizing them to kind of come up with a new scheme.
But in reality, he's taken tons of risks to protect the Targaryens and to get Tyrion there. So there is theory that Tyrion is a Targaryen as well, and of course Daenerys is. That's not any question. But there's also a theory that Varys is a Targaryen.
The dragon has 3 heads, and it seems like Daenerys is obviously one, and it seems like Jon Snow is most likely going to be number 2.
Well, we have confirmed that he's a Targaryen.
But whether or not he's one of the dragon riders,
right?
We've yet to figure out. And that leaves one spot open. Yeah, is it going to be Tyrion? Is that why Varys tried so hard to get him over there? Or could it be Varys? Could it be someone we haven't even met yet? Could it be, it could be all sorts of people.
Yeah, and does it have to be a Targaryen?
That's true.
Because
it could be someone like Arya or Sansa
or another theory is that Bran wargs into a dragon and rides it that way. So it's not like... And again, not every Targaryen can ride a dragon.
Exactly.
Like we've known that that's not just a given.
And
that once a dragon is paired with a rider, they don't take another rider.
Yes.
So Drogon won't have another rider.
And it seems like Tyrion has already made a pretty strong bond with those other two dragons when he went down to see them. If you remember, they let him touch them essentially, and he released them from their collars, and ultimately they came and saved the day against the Masters near the end of season 6. So it seems like it's leaning towards Daenerys, Tyrion, and Jon, but that third spot I think is still up for grabs.
And there's thought that there might be an ice dragon.
That's true. There could be a fourth dragon under the wall.
If there is, that would definitely be a Jon.
Because then we'd have fire and ice combining.
Right. So, interesting theories. So, I do think that Varys is definitely on the Targaryen side. I'm not exactly sure why or what his thoughts are with that. But
there's the theory that he's a Blackfyre. Is that the family that he might be a part of?
Yeah, and they have Valyrian background, so that's why he
Closely
doesn't have
linked
hair
to the Targaryens,
because he's been shaving it.
Yes.
So, definitely a Targaryen loyalist.
Yes.
If nothing else.
Yes.
So, it'll be interesting to see what happens in season 7.
Shall we hit our list?
List time!
Alright, top 10 list. Our top 10 list for today was who you would most want to be friends with. And this isn't Cersei's the queen, so I want to be friends with her. It's
hang out with.
Yeah, it's who would you want to spend time with, invite over to your house, whatever. So we'll start with ours, and then we'll read our group list. Remember, 10th place on everyone's list was worth 1 point, all the way up to first place was worth 10 points. So obviously it's weighted depending on who you want to hang out with, and you can probably guess who won. My number 10 was Marjorie. I like Marjorie. I think I like Marjorie more than most people do, but
I like Marjorie. She was in my
she's very
what's
smart.
it called? Honorable mention.
She's very smart. She's very funny. She seems like she gets it too, which I appreciate.
Along the same lines, my number 10 was Missandei.
Yeah.
I think she's very smart. She's traveled the world, and in reality, she's only 10. So there's theories around what she might be too, but. She's a fascinating person. She's not that funny. Everyone's like, she's boring.
Awesome joke. The translator joke. I like it. My number 9 was Podrick. Podrick just seems like a cool guy.
Yeah. My number 9 was Davos.
Yeah, just seems cool. Kind of boring, but seems alright.
They seem like good conversationalists.
Yeah, Davos would be fun to talk to.
Yeah.
My number 8 was Renly. He seems like a fun-loving guy. I love Renly.
Yeah.
It's too bad what happens to him.
Right. Yara is my number 8.
Yeah. Yara has skyrocketed lately in characters we like. I think mainly due to her flirty conversation with Daenerys.
Yeah, that was excellent.
That really pushed her up there on a lot of people's radars, I think. My number 7 was Daario. Again, I don't know. He just seems fun.
Yeah.
Despite the kind of psychopathic killing tendencies.
My number 7 was Tormund. He's hilarious.
He is. He doesn't understand how words work. He's just awesome.
And he's just genuine and honest.
Yeah. My number 6, I put him pretty highly. I don't know. Maybe it's because I kind of have a crush on Jaime Lannister, but there's every time, I think it's more the actor, every time he talks, he commands attention. And I think he's a fascinating, interesting person, especially once you get past season 1 Jaime, who's just kind of,
a jerk.
Just a kind of entitled douche, yeah. He grew on me a lot, and I think he's got a lot of growth still on the show.
I agree. He has a really interesting story. But I didn't have him on my list. My number 6 is Dany.
Yeah. She'd probably yell at you a lot about dragons and the queen and fire and blood.
Yeah, but I feel like if you're a close friend of hers, she really confides in you.
Well, she more than any other ruler on the show, I think, listens to her advisors.
Yeah.
Which is a very rare trait, because you get people like Robert who's like, you disagree with me? Get out of here. Screw you. You get, Ramsay Bolton. You get Cersei, who just don't listen to anyone.
Right.
My number 5 was Yara.
Mine is Jon. Lots of people thought he was boring.
So mopey.
I love him. He's sweet, and he knows a lot of what's actually important in the world, and He has a lot of good characteristics, and he's cute.
Yes. My number 4, and I was surprised how high this guy got, but Sam Tarly, probably one of the only actually like happy, funny people on this show.
Yeah.
He's always smiling, even though he's in like the worst place in the world. Everyone hates him. His own family hates, or his own dad hates him, I guess, not his whole family. But just seems like a big, huggable, lovable guy.
And I was the only person in our group who didn't have him on my list. My number 4 was Olenna. I think that she's just a badass and hilarious.
Hilarious old grandma.
Very smart.
Yes.
Would be interesting to talk to.
Yes, she's like, if you went to like a party, she'd be like sitting in the corner. You'd be like, I'm gonna go talk to her like all night because I just want to hear her like judge everyone here.
Right.
Just
he's so entertaining.
Sharp tongue, old lady. My number 3, I think the only person who did not put Tyrion at number 1. I had Tyrion at number 3 because I had a few people I think over him that I'd rather hang out with. But obviously Tyrion is very high on everyone's list.
Yeah.
Sorry if I spoiled it.
My number 3 was Bran. Again, lots of
Your
people
list is weird.
I want to hang out with people that I have good conversations with. That's how I choose my friends in real life.
Yes.
And that's how I choose these people. So Bran is fascinating. He knows so much, and I would love to just hang out and talk to him.
Yeah.
And possibly carry him around on my shoulders. I don't know.
You just say your own name constantly. Daniel. My number 2, I put him very high. Robert Baratheon.
I think you're the only one who had him.
I think so. But my reasoning was when he's not like hammered drunk out of his mind, which is a lot of the time, he is hilarious. And like you can see, especially when he's talking to Ned, who's, one of the only people he really truly lets his guard down around.
Mm-hmm.
He's hilarious. He's just willing to jest and poor little fat cat. He's just, I don't know. I like Robert a lot. He just seems like that loud, boisterous uncle who would come to a family reunion and you'd be excited to see.
See, I think that he'd be interesting to watch. I don't know if I'd want to like hang out with him directly.
Okay.
Like I'd want to watch him at a party and judge him with Olenna.
See what happens. Yeah.
My number 2 was Bronn. Who wouldn't want to hang out with Bronn? I mean, that's just a given.
My number 1 was Bronn. I think he's my favorite character on the show. Every time he's on screen, he says funny things.
Yeah.
But he also has the opportunity to be pretty badass. He's very practical.
He's very sweet.
Yeah,
he has real relationships with the people he's around.
Yes, and he thinks about things like this. Like you were saying in that fight in the Vale, he didn't want to kill that guy.
Right.
And it was because Lysa is such a psycho that he did. But yeah, I think there's a lot to his character, and I just think he's awesome. So yeah, number 2, my number 1.
My number 1 is Tyrion for obvious reasons.
And I think he was everyone's number 1 except for me.
Yeah, I believe you're right.
Yeah, so he clearly ran away with it. So our overall list, there was a tie for 10th place between Bran and Jon, which fitting, those two should be at 10th place.
Whatever.
Number 9 was Podrick Payne. Number 8 was Tormund Giantsbane. Number 7 was Yara. Number 6 really surprised me. Ros. Ros was up there on a lot of people's lists, and I was...
Well, for specific reasons.
Yeah, but... I mean, I just didn't feel like there was enough of a character of her to be like, I want to be friends with Ros, but whatever.
Yeah, I kind of just forgot about her because she's really big in the first season.
Yeah.
And then she goes away fairly quickly.
Yeah. Number 5 was Olenna, the Queen of Thorns. Number 4, completely left him off my list, and I felt like a dummy. Oberyn Martell.
Yeah, same for me. Yeah. I would have put him on my list for sure, and I
pretty
forgot.
high on my list. Yeah. Number 3, as he should be, Sam. Sam was pretty. I think he was on everyone's list.
Except mine. And
of course, yes, and of course, we have a friend named Sam. So every time someone said, "Sam, I want to be friends with Sam," he, "Oh, thank you." It's like, come on, it's not fair. Number 2 was Bronn, and number 1 was Tyrion Lannister, the Imp. So, pretty good list of, I think, pretty telling, pretty fitting of who people want to be friends with. Bronn, Tyrion, and Sam were all very high on everyone's list. So, good stuff.
Good stuff. So, We would love to hear your list. So if you want to tell us who your top 10 Game of Thrones characters you would want to be friends with and hang out with in real life, we'd love to hear it in the comments below. As well as if you have any thoughts on the theories or this episode.
Yes. Go back if you're trying to just like cherry pick good episodes. Season 1, episode 6 is a great episode. Probably like the second best of the first season. The 9th episode obviously is a big one, but probably the second best episode, if not the best of the first season. So.
Yeah, and if you have any ideas for us on lists you'd like to see us do,
yes,
we'd love to hear it.
Absolutely. More feedback, the better. So until next time, this is Jordan and Danielle signing out.
All right, make sure you subscribe and like and that kind of stuff so you don't miss any of our next videos.
Yes.